Hello, you're listening to Tony Slattery's Rambling Club, and you're most welcome.
Well, it's Friday, it's 5 to 5, and the doors of the Rambling Club are open once again. And hello and welcome. My name's Paul Carmichael.
And I'm Alan Lear.
And you are welcome once again to Tony Slattery's Rambling Club. Still not here, still just going to urinate, as he said. I don't know how many minutes it is now, Albert. It's going on a while, isn't it?
He is taking his time. I have to say that the passage of time is starting to affect the shed as well. It's starting to look a bit eroded and ropey around here. Everything's faded, the paint's peeling off.
It is really. I mean, I don't know about you, but I have absolutely zero ability when it comes to anything to do with DIY, as my wife will tell you. But, oh, someone at the door. Do you mind? Do you want to get the door? I'll see who it is.
Of course. Hello.
Hello. How are you? I've come to give you an estimate on doing the painting of your shed.
Oh, lovely.
Does look a bit of a state.
It is a little bit of it. Isn't that a remarkable coincidence? You wouldn't believe it. Alan and I were just talking a moment ago about how much of a state the shed has got itself into. And hold on a moment.
Yeah.
Is that Karl Howman?
Yes, it is. Yes.
Carl, well, welcome to the club. I mean, it's nice to see you doing the painting and decorating.
I'm not that good, but I'd give it a go for you and for Tony if he's about.
Well, he's somewhere, isn't he, Al? But we're not quite sure where down the labyrinth of corridors this lavatory is.
Somewhere at the end of the morass of plumbing. We need to get a plumber as well as a painter and decorator. I don't know what's...
Well, I'll tell you what, though, Carl. Seeing as you're here, on a Friday, normally what we do is we've got the old bingo machine here, and we normally give it a bit of a spin, and we go for a bit of a ramble, Alan and I, just to keep it oiled up until Tony's returned. Do you maybe fancy coming for a bit of a ramble, and then we can talk about estimates on the way?
You know what? I'd love to.
Perfect. Lovely. In that case, let's give the bingo machine a whirl and see where we end up this week. Here we go. Off we go.
Tony's enchanted bingo machine. A curious contraption of cogs, levers, and glowing buttons that hums with ominous energy. This machine generates 3 completely random numbers. These numbers are fed directly into the Dewey Decimal System, the arcane reference system by which books and their contents are categorized. In this way, the bingo machine conjures from thin air a topic of conversation so enthralling, so wildly unexpected, that it leaves the members of the Rambling Club both bewildered and vaguely excited. Thus, another evening is saved from the brink of boredom, thanks to Tony's marvellous, possibly haunted and entirely inexplicable bingo machine.
Well, here we are in our first location, ready for our first ramble with our very special guest president, Karl Howman. And the numbers selected by the machine for our first ramble are
3, 4.
334, 334. And that means the first subject is Cooperatives. Right.
Okay. All right.
Where does that take people straight away? I think of the co-op, the shop, which is one of those things that's been there all my life, I'm so glad to say.
Yes, me too. Absolutely. Well, I mean, I'm a fan of the co-op. Anything. The insurance company I use, I won't mention them. The National Farmers Union, that's a cooperative. And the very first co-op I think I ever got involved in was the NAFI. When I was a kid, my father was in the Royal Artillery, and we were in army quarters in Woolwich, and we had NAFI, and we used to go down as kids to get mum's groceries when dad was away. The army, the band were playing away, and I'd have coins. They were like tin coins, you know, that you'd use as money. They were given us as kids, and the family was and you'd go down to Naffy and you'd exchange your goods for that. That was a sort of a co-op thing as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm in favour of co-ops where they're non-profit and plough it all back in.
Yeah. Cooperatives wise, straight away, I always think of, because as actors, of course, I mean, you don't really get this now, but the idea of the actors' cooperatives that you used to get. And you got things which had that ethos, which I suppose were kind of professional, like Joan Littlewood with the theatre workshop. But also, you got these wonderful organisations within institutions like Cadbury's and things, and they would call those actors' cooperatives. And it was for the people who worked for Cadbury's just to do a bit of amateur dramatics and things like that. But the idea of cooperatives, I do love it. It's got that, it's got that genuine heart of sort of left-wing thinking, hasn't it? The idea of a cooperative.
It has, and is that Cadbury's place? They had the whole town, didn't it? Was that Bourneville? Yeah, I mean, it's a fascinating place. I do remember going there once many years ago. But yes, yeah, I agree. I mean, I worked for at the Stratford East, and the situation there and the way that was run by Philip Headley. This is way after Joan Littlewood had finished, and I did 3 consecutive years there, and it was wonderful. I mean, he'd leave his office open. The people would help him, help behind the bar, and all. You come in as a visiting artist and treated everybody. It was wonderful, wonderful setup.
Yeah. It's that thing, if you've got true sort of parity, isn't it, amongst everyone, then you can get something so much more than you might have done if you'd have ignored people, I suppose.
Yeah, I think when people come in and they do it for altruistic reasons, you can't always. But if you do it for altruistic reasons, it's weird and to give more.
Yeah. Thinking about that, one of the lovely stories that I love from old telly goes back to 1960. And it was at Granada Television up here near Manchester. And it was when they were making the pilot of Coronation Street. And nobody was really sure if it had worked to actually have genuine northern voices in a prime-time drama. They were really worried about that. But one of the things that they did to prove that it could be a success was they showed it at Granada to the canteen staff and the ladies with the tea trolleys, and they took their feedback to make it what it was. And it was because of them that the name was changed, because originally it was called Florizel Street. And there was a lady called Gladys, who was one of the tea trolley ladies, and she said Florizel Street. That sounds like a detergent. And it was because of her that they changed the name to Coronation Street. So that whole thing of where you do actually listen to everyone and get everyone involved, I think that's a wonderful thing.
That's incredibly innovative at the time. That to me, I mean, because when the execs then, I think, well, you know, whatever they said stayed. You know, I think there were many focus groups going on then, to be honest. But that was whoever did that. Well, no, it was Tony Warren, wasn't it, who wrote it, I think?
It was, yeah, that's right. And it was the Bernstein brothers who were in charge of Granada. And one of the Bernsteins was determined to make it a big success because he believed, with, you know, the idea of Granada, it was to put a northern stamp on television. So he really believed in it. And the other Bernstein brother was the one who was sort of going, no, I don't think this is going to work. So, but, you know, it was a real little cooperative that was happening there, of, you know, the idea of cooperation.
People, I mean, a lot of people down here where I was a Londoner, Woolwich and all that, we hadn't been up there. That's the first time we really got a sense of what living in the north was like. I mean, it was another country years ago. You know, because how often would you try? Not everybody had cars when I was growing up, and it was a long way. It was a long way. It relatively, not now, of course, with the high speed and the motorways and things, but when there was no motorways, it was a hell of a trip to go up there. You really were travelling to another place.
Yeah, it's what about in terms of sort of that social side of the co-op? Because we've talked about before, haven't we? When it comes to the co-op, were they the first people to set up a funeral thing or something like that? Was there that?
I honestly don't know, but I mean, people twice could be my in-laws. My mother-in-law is still from a generation who remembers her co-op number off by heart. I think knows her mother's as well. Because, you know, she used to get sent down to do the errands every weekend when she was a little girl. You'd be sent off to the co-op, and it was a huge thing in our area, wasn't it?
Mm.
What area are you talking about?
We're on the Wirral, so we're just south of Liverpool, very slightly.
Great friend of mine lives on the Wirral. Yeah, I've travelled a few times, yeah, and I love it down there. And my mum and Dad were living in Formby. They moved from here down to there. My niece married a guy, and so my sister moved down that way, and then my mum and Dad followed. So I've got great affection for that part. Both my parents, my dad died in the hospice there. Well, he was at home, but he was in the hospice there, and they were wonderful. It was fabulous.
Yeah.
Thinking of what you were saying about the North being practically a different country, my grandmother used to tell a story that she'd had one of my granddad's old army buddies who'd been from London, came to visit shortly after the war, kind of looked out of the back room of the kitchen and went, "Oh my God!" And they said, "What's up?" And he went, "You've got I didn't know you had gardens up here."
Yeah. Well, Coronation Street.
Exactly. Industrial terraces. Yeah.
That's what it was. You know, the open titles that they panned down from the chimney pots, didn't they? And then gardens were all little tiny backyards, really, not green at all. And that, so I can imagine that. But you can't get any greener than round Formby and round there. It's absolutely beautiful.
Oh, it is. It's beautiful there.
Yeah, one of the last places in the country where they've still got red squirrels.
Well, they're in Scotland, I think, the Isle of Wight, but very few.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, I was born in one of those terraces from Coronation Street. So that sort of like that architecture, honestly, that was just what I was used to and I absolutely loved as well. But that made me think then, because the whole thing of sort of what with the cooperative, you know, it was the idea that you, as a working class person, that there were certain, not advantages, but just rights that you should have had. So I wonder then, Karl, as an actor, going to the National Youth Theatre, first of all, how did you find that your class affected you training as an actor or in any way?
To be honest, it helped. There was at that time we were coming. We as the profession and the business was coming out of the pronunciation period of Olivier, Gielgud, Richardson. Everybody was coming. Thought acting was that's how it was, and of course it was. You know But then we had the working class heroes. You know, so that I was just hitting just after about 5 or 6 years of that, you know, the Joe Walton and the John Osborne, all that time. So it was a help, you know. My first job was in Softly Softly as a burglar. So and then I did a 30-minute theatre as a runaway. You know, they were writing for people like that, a background. So it did help, to be honest.
And there was, I suppose, as well, the other thing must have helped is there was so much more drama just being made than there is now. I think it feels like every night, if you look at an old Radio Times and a TV Times, every night there's at least 2 new dramas, there's a new sitcom, there seemed to just be such an amount of work being made. I mean, with the single play, 30-minute theatre, the ones that still exist, they are beautiful little pieces of work. So I suppose as an actor, that there were real opportunities there if you went for them.
Well, once you got established in one show, and if they liked you, you just hop from one to the other, you know, because that many doing it. But the thing I find with the 30-minute theatres You see, radio was was amazing training ground for everybody, and mainly the writers more than the actors. You see, the writers got a foothold in radio. Their imaginations could run riot and do whatever they wanted. They could be anywhere. The set was. I'm stating the obvious here, and you obviously know this, but for anybody listening, you don't have to pay for the set. You don't have to pay for anything. It's all there, just the actors' voices and the director and the writer. So the imagination could go where it wanted. And a lot of the great sitcoms writers came from radio. Esmond and Larby started on radio. Hamilton, I believe, a lot of them went back because they enjoyed the freedom of radio. So, and we can hear it now, of course. So I don't know if you're Radio 4 Extra fans. I mean,
Oh yes, yeah.
And it's one. I'm just listening to George Cole doing Smiley, the whole series, and it was a joy. And I thought, my God, that's ages ago. And then I heard the director, the producer, was John Fawcett Wilson. Well, he did King Street Junior, and I did like 10 years of that. So he at Radio 4. So I mean, his history, and Jim Eldridge who wrote that and Coming Alive that I did for him as well, has got a huge canon of radio work. It's amazing.
And it sounds, what's lovely there is that sounds like a real cooperative in itself of people working with each other, getting to know each other's talent, and being able to sort of have this whole network of people who've got a sort of a commonality when it comes to work, I suppose. So that's a real cooperative there, isn't it, in itself? Television at the time, I mean.
It is absolutely. But of course, go with the when they used to do what they'd say weekly rep, that they got to know each other so well that you'd be doing play for a week and rehearsing in the evening the following week's play. Well, I mean, God, that is, isn't it? I mean, I thought, the National, you get 6 weeks rehearsal. They got some wonderful stuff out. My ex-son-in-law, who I get on very well, I love very much. He's in a show there, and they get plenty of. But the product's just sensational.
Well, here we are in our second location, ready for our second ramble. And the numbers the machine has selected here are
4, 8, 1.
481. 481. And that means that the second subject is classical Greek writing. Classical Greek writing.
Oh,
where should we start?
Oh, that's a good one. Who you do, Alan? You start.
Okay. The classical Greek writing. My favourite sentence ever written about classical Greek writing is, "The Odyssey wasn't written by Homer, but by another man of the same name." And I like that because it kind of encapsulates how much we've lost of the classical Greek tradition. But I think we were talking about this with Sylvester. We were talking about the Odyssey with Sylvester McCoy, weren't we?
Yeah, we were, yeah.
And it's actually the first. I would kind of argue it's the first science fiction story because a guy goes on a journey to different islands, meets various different monsters, outwits, and comes home. These days, you do it with spaceships and rockets and aliens. But it's the same story, and it's the same. It's that thing about the hero's journey, isn't it? You get the same plots, the same stories echo down throughout history, with minor variations.
You do, and then.
Well, no, I think Alan's right. I think it is it is a science. It is like the science fiction, but all of the mythological. Well, mythological. They believed in the Norse gods and Mars and Jupiter and all these gods years ago. And yes, that is science fiction in itself, isn't it? I mean, you don't actually need the word science next to it. That's sort of against all of the stuff that's going. It's sort of it misdescribes it, in my opinion. Science fiction. It's fiction and futuristic fiction, if you'd like, but we're talking about it being history.
Yeah, it's a bit like with The Tempest, isn't it? Which is sort of Shakespearean sci-fi or fantasy, but people don't know quite what to call it, so they call it a problem, rather than just calling it fiction, which is what it is.
Yeah.
Well, isn't The Tempest the one that was remade as Return to the Forbidden Planet?
That's the one, yes, yeah.
So they made it explicitly science fictional.
So there you go. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, I think I've got this, though, because when it comes to the sort of the classical Greek writing, favourite series of mine that you did, Carl, because I know everyone will talk to you about brushstrokes, but my personal favourite series, and I was gutted because I felt it should have had another series, Mulberry. Now, doesn't Mulberry borrow a lot from Greek myths? Because weren't you, I mean, you were the figure of death in that, which is a bit weird for a sitcom, but it worked beautifully. So was that borrowing from Greek work?
Can I bore you with a little bit of the history of that?
Yes, please.
Idea that we were coming up to the last. Well, we didn't realise it was the last series. Bob and John, after we did all Bob and John Esmond and Bob Larby, after we used to be called Brushstrokes, we'd go. They'd stay in the post house, the Hilton at Shepherd's Bush, and I'd go. I usually go for a drink with them in the bar afterwards. My wife and I, we go and have a drink there, and then I'd get home, and they were staying and go back the next day. So we were in there one night and talking, and he said, "How many more of these do you want to do? They've asked us to do more." He said, "But we have been talking, and we've got this idea." He said, and that is, he said, "I can't explain it completely." And John Esmond took the lead on this. He said, you are a character that's going to come from otherworldly, and you come down and you help this woman who's very cantankerous, and we think she hasn't fulfilled her enjoyment on earth yet. She hasn't smiled, she hasn't laughed, and you come back and you get her there, and then she says, I'm ready to go now, because she's in a better place. I said, well, that's interesting. Okay. So we said, okay, let's go. I said, I'd love to, of course. So they presented it to the head of the BBC comedy department. They said, yeah, we'd love to do that. The idea, the premise is, I am the son of death, one of the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse. And I clean the stables for the horses. Done. That's what my job is. So I clean the horses and muck them out. Yeah. My mother is Springtime, who was played by Sylvia Sims in the series. So she's my mother, and Death and Light. So I'm sent back. He said, we've got one particular woman who won't come. When she's ready, we want her to come, but she won't come. So we want you to go and cheer her up a little bit, so she feels more at ease to go. I mean, it's crazy, but I love doing it. I loved working with Geraldine McEwen, and I loved the 2 writers, and John Hobbs, who's our director through the 2 series. It was the most enjoyable period of any sitcom I've done.
Really? Because you know what, I've always loved anything with Tony Selby. I think there's just there's a comforting presence in Tony Selby. You feel safe when he's on the screen, I always find. But Mulberry was fascinating because every sitcom I'd seen up until that point was a really obvious situation comedy. So like, Are You Being Served? Or It Ain't Our Fault, Mom? Or Brushstrokes. And this really was sort of like pushing what comedy would normally do, especially at 8:30 on a Monday evening on BBC One.
Yeah, well, Tony and I worked in Get Some In together. I did the last series, and so he was a friend when we did it. So that was, and Bob and John liked having people that knew each other if they could, because the getting to know you situation wasn't there. It was you're off and running. And we've worked together in pantomime as well. So we'd done a summer season at Blackpool together. So I knew Tony. So that was good. I didn't know Geraldine, but we hit it off straight away. I mean, Broad Strokes was wonderful. Don't get me wrong. I loved doing it, but it was hectic. Other things would go, it's a multi-cast and very, you're working so many different scenes. But I was able with Mulberry to spend more time with one person, which was like Geraldine, and get that relationship really moving in the direction we both, and the writers and the director, wanted.
And should it have had a third series? Because I'm sure it should have done, to sort of like round it off.
Well, you know my answer to that. Anybody who's listening would know what I would say to that. But the reason it didn't was there was another series out at the time, and which was called So Haunt Me. It come out.
Oh, with George Costigan
and Miriam Carlin. And that was up for another series. Ours was up for another series. And Alan Yentob was there to make the decision. And he said, we can't have two supernatural, as it were, ethereal series on at the same time. And So Haunt Me, I understand, was made by an independent company.
It was.
The BBC was making Mulberry. So it was less money from a budget how they were going to do it. They were at that time bringing in independence, and the decision was made there. So, we were upset. Geraldine was upset. Bob and John were upset, and I was upset. But that's this business, and that's life. You get over it.
I think that takes me right back to what we were saying in the first ramble about when you have people in telly who really got what they were doing. And I think that around that period really is when, well, the money men got more involved, and I think there was less thought. I always love what Lou Grade said whenever he got any flack for doing Crossroads, and his answer was, well, I don't make it for the critics, I make it for the people at home. So he really didn't care because people were enjoying it. And I think around then things went a bit different, and the decisions being made were maybe more to do with finance than creativity around that time.
It reminds me of that, that bonkers Dino De Laurentiis, the Italian producer. He produced the Jessica Lange remake of King Kong and so on. But he made the first adaptation of a Hannibal Lecter book. He made Red Dragon, the book, as a film. Stars Brian Cox as Hannibal Lecter. He's very good. Film sank without a trace because Dino De Laurentiis had also produced Enter the Dragon with Bruce Lee that same year, and he decided he couldn't make two films with Dragon in the title in 1 year, so he changed the name to Manhunter. Nobody knew it was based on the book Red Dragon. Film sank without trace.
Oh God!
Interesting. I knew about Red Dragon. I knew about Brian Cox playing the lead in that. I knew that, and I've seen that film, but I didn't know that they'd changed the name, and that was the reason, because Dino. That's very fascinating tip.
Yeah. It's like one of those silly decisions, like we can't have two supernatural. That's what it reminded me of.
It sounds like, I don't want it to sound like I didn't think So Haunt Me was any good or anything, or that we were up against, or mine was better or anything. I'm not talking on.
No, I just thought that particular reason, we can't have two supernatural. It's a silly reason to make that decision. It's not like, they can't track listens. No, we just can't have two with this genre. Is that
because they were both getting good audience figures? So why not? Surely that's what the audience want. If the audience like it, give them what they want. I think.
Don't put them in the same time of the year. I mean, Mulberry, I think, is a sort of a winter show. I think it was, by the fire and watch these two, this man trying, this young man trying to make this woman's life, make her lighten up a bit, really.
Well, here we are in our third and final location, ready for our third and final ramble with our guest President Karl Howman, and the numbers for this ramble are
9, 4, 1.
941. 941, and that means the subject is the general history of Europe, but specifically the British Isles.
Oof.
Okay.
I love Doggerland. I don't know why, but you know that the whole thing when we were attached, to Europe, completely attached this land bridge. I find that fascinating. That whenever I've sort of like travelled over the Channel, you're travelling over where there were towns and villages and all that sort of thing. I mean, I think that Doggerland fascinates me.
Well, that brings to me, that sums up in my mind the shipping forecast. And Dogger, all those, and that to me is the last thing that anyone will hear, I believe, when the Armageddon happens, will be the shipping forecast. That's so constant. It's not going to, if we suddenly had a revolution and the monarchy was deposed and we had a different constitution and different things at night, there wouldn't be the national anthem. But I'm positive we would still have the shipping forecast. Whatever happens, that would still be because of obvious reasons, because of the shipping. And when you hear all that, I don't know whether you listen. I listen to it if I happen to be awake and I'm there. I listen to it right through. I find it a very soothing thing to listen to. Marty Kane, bless her heart, I worked with her, was an absolutely wonderful lady, a fabulous performer and comedian, and a beautiful person. She died very too early, and she had the shipping forecast when her funeral played, and it was and to me it's always been that's the end. That's it. The fishing. Well, now you can go to sleep because all the ships are happy. Everyone knows, and we know where we are as an island. Anyway, there you go.
No, I love that.
I have read that the shipping forecast these days is completely useless. Ships don't rely on it anymore. All the technology is much more advanced. They don't use it.
Oh, and
they still do it because without the shipping forecast, it wouldn't be radio travel.
Well, that's fascinating. Well, that almost backs up what I'm believing.
Exactly so. Yeah, exactly so.
Oh my God, I didn't. Well, listen, it makes sense. Of course, it's going to be technical, and they can find out.
Yeah,
but yeah, how beautiful.
It's lovely that, isn't it? Because then we're going into traditions, and the lovely traditions that you still have in this country. Like tomorrow, we've got the May Day Fair here, and it really is. I mean, this thing has not changed, this event, since before the war. It's exactly the same thing, and it's the perfect sort of traditional small or large village event, complete with things like we have an over 60s ladies belly dancing squad who perform every year. It's just glorious, it really is. And I love those mad traditions. I've even down to dancing around the maypole, which I remember doing at playgroup.
We have in our town. Yes, every year we've always had that. But you did file there because that went back to our first one about Coronation Street. I had to do a double little thing there. The May Day Fair. I thought you said fur. That's how you said. And I had to think twice because we're fair. It's a fur.
Yes.
What do you say, Alan?
I say fire.
Yeah.
You see, there's the thing. I was brought up in Liverpool, so even though I was referred to as what is it? RP with a northern twist. I was once told my voice was, which I didn't know how to take that. RP with a northern twist.
But that's nice. But you've got having a little twist in it. It's great.
Yeah, a bit of personality.
Yeah. Well, when it comes to Britain and the fact that, like you were saying, we're an island, and I love the shipping forecast. It's the rhythm of it. Dogger, fisher, German bite, all that. But with our being an island, of course. And we've just, the 80th anniversary of VE Day, which then immediately, Karl, of course, can take me to your first book, the first book that you wrote, which was this wonderful history to do with the Spitfires and the women who made them in the factories.
Well, I have to say this. I didn't write this on my own. It was Etam Chetintas, he was my worker. We worked together on collaborate on quite a few things, on ads and everything and other stuff, and we did film together. It was both of us, but he was a genius. He could do editing, direct, do all the cinematography and all of that. It was brilliant, all the technical side. I just talked to the actors and sort of directed stuff and helped with the construct. It was a full collaboration, but he was absolutely brilliant. And we did it with we did a film first, a documentary, which we subsequently had on at the Odeon 5 years ago. So it did a run at the Odeon cinemas. 6 weeks it ran in Salisbury, and then we leased it to Channel 5 for 3 years. So they've showing it, and from that, History Press asked if we could do a book, and that book is a Howman and Chetintas book, but it was co-written with Gavin Clark, who came on board to do the heavy work with the writing of it, and he was absolutely fabulous, a great wordsmith. And so we got it with all our film and all our research. It was used to make the book and pictures and from the film, and it's more it's a bigger a record that we could than what we could get in the documentary. But it was mainly on the works of Norman Parker, who was a Barnardo's boy, grew up in Salisbury, and when he was evacuated during the war, and he worked on maintaining the Spitfires that crashed and working on the Lancasters and stuff. So he did the research on all this, and nobody would listen to him weren't interested. When he would say that the women did all the construction with help of men who couldn't go to war, who were the foremans and stuff, and the women were making the widgets and the stuff that making the wings and the propellers, all in bus garages, all hidden away in Salisbury. It's a fascinating story. Well, Etam saw this in Salisbury, heard this guy talking about it, Norman Parker, rang me up and said, "Karl, we got to do this. This is an incredible story." So I went down, and we got a little studio in the back of his garden in Salisbury, a recording studio and an editing suite. And we interviewed Norman Parker, the whole story. And then we went out and interviewed the women. Now, we found them. It was a period you couldn't have been commissioned for this, because it would have taken too long. They would have gone, "Where is it?" And of course, we had to find all these people. And it took us nearly 2 years to get it all together, interviewing Dame Vera Lynn and all this business, and we got together. So eventually we got it together, and we're very proud of it. I'm glad you said that, because I'm doing a screening of it for VE Day at 5 different venues over the period of the VE Day, and I do a talk as well. So yes, it is important, the VE Day, and they're all dead now. Even Etam, my business partner, he died a couple of years ago in the head. He had a massive heart attack, same age as me. God bless his soul. So he's gone. Norman's died. All the women have gone that we interviewed, and the men, and so it's quite a historical piece.
I would have assumed that they were made in factories, but a factory would be a target.
The Luftwaffe, the main Spitfire production was in Southampton at the Supermarine factory, which is on the banks of the Soda, and the Luftwaffe came over, bombed it, missed it, killed civilians. They missed the actual factory itself, came back 2 days later and obliterated it. So the whole of Spitfire production in the southeast had finished. Beaverbrook met with Churchill. They all had a summit meeting, and they decided that what they would do, quite totally secretly, they would disperse all the building. Like a propeller would be made in a bus garage at the back there, and they'd all in Salisbury, all round there, and then and then they at night they'd put it onto a loader, take it out to the an airfield that was constructed, and they'd build it out there, put it together out there, and then fly it off. So if the Germans bombed a place, only one component of the Spitfire would be hopefully that, and then they could quickly get there, but not the whole thing. Or anybody says, Carl, but they did it in Reading, and yes, it was done, but the main one we're talking about was in Salisbury at the time. And had that been bombed, the loss of life, civilian life, if it had got out, that's what was happening, would have been catastrophic for the town.
Yeah, because they wouldn't have had a single target. They'd have had to just firebomb the whole town to take the production out.
Well, we got one. We managed to get because of the film and the book. We've got a life-size Spitfire on the land where one of the factories was. The secret factories were. So it's there to commemorate all the women that worked there.
Well, here we are back in the presidential shed. Our rambles for today are ended. And Karl Howman, it has been an absolute pleasure to go rambling with you. Thank you so much. Have you enjoyed your ramble?
I have, very much so, yes. Yes, it was well, I'm sorry about that, but I guess...
No, that's what we like.
Oh, it's been absolutely spot on, really. So thank you so much. Thank you. And thank you to everyone at home for listening. And we hope that you enjoyed this week's meeting of the Rambling Club.
The club does meet every Friday, but if you'd like to get in touch in the meantime, here's how you can find your fellow members.
Tony's official website is at www.tonyslattery.com, and you can get in touch with us on the contact form on the website.
We're on Twitter at Slattery Live. Please use the hashtag at TSRC to discuss this week's topic.
I'm on Twitter too, at Paul Carmichael V, but I'm also on Blue Sky, and you can find at Slattery Live on Blue Sky as well.
Yeah, and Tony also has a good old-fashioned Facebook group at www.facebook.com/group/TheTonySlattery.
And he's on Instagram as well, at Tony_Slattery_official.
He's everywhere, Tony. He's brilliant. He is.
So, but Karl, how if people want to get hold of you, how can they track you down in various ways?
Well, get me on Wikipedia, of course. My name, just put my name in. You can get me on mainly on Twitter is the best one, because just put Karl Howman in on Twitter and all my details come up. Or at Agent Fox Media, and I'm represented there for any talking engagements about my books and stuff, anything.
Perfect, thank you.
And if people want to join the Rambling Club for themselves, Paul, how do they do that?
Well, what they can do, Alan, is head to www.patreon.com/Slattery Live. The Rambling Club is open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. We'd be delighted to welcome you, and you can find all sorts of lovely perks there. And you can claim your membership card and your membership badges as well as a lovely signed photograph from the team on the Rambling Club. So have a look at www.patreon.com/Slattery Live.
Yeah, and you can find us wherever you get your podcasts. Why not leave a little review or just 5 stars? 5's a lovely round number, I always think. Please do get in touch by any of those methods. We'd be thrilled to hear from you.
And we will be back for another ramble next Friday at 5 to 5. But until then, it's a goodbye from myself, Paul Carmichael. It's a goodbye from my colleague, Mr. Alan Lear.
Goodbye.
And it is a goodbye from our very special guest president this week. Thank you, Karl Howman.
Thank you both very much. Most enjoyable.
You have been listening to Tony Slattery's Rambling Club with our special guest president, Karl Howman. He was accompanied by Stephen Free as the voice of the bingo machine. Acting President Howman was assisted by Paul Carmichael and Alan Lear. The music was composed and performed by Mikael Livesley and Andy Friesel. Silly voices are by Mikael Livesley and the show's concept is by Paul Carmichael. Our producers are Stuart Morris and Alan Tebing, and the show's researcher is Sola Carmichael. The show's producers are Erika Lear and Mark Hutchinson, and the program was edited by Harry Carmichael. Our executive producer is Chris Kastle, and the series executive producer is Mark Strickson. Tony Slattery's Rambling Club is a Funfanitel production.
Goodbye, and thank you for listening.